Seems like every year that I get to do this type of presentation, I always have to follow some incredible acceptance speech here. So I'm sorry that I'm going to disappoint a lot of you. I don't have such meaningful words that you've said. But I get the honor and the privilege to introduce someone that actually sort of helped to form my coaching career, and I know he's impacted a lot of other individuals, both as players and future coaches and future leaders. I'd like to introduce head basketball coach Chris Fear. Chris?
All right, I want to make sure that I'll try to stay here so that everybody can hear what I'm saying. I am really honored to be here, and I want to thank Bob Coffey reached out to me, and really all the Dana College family for inviting me to be here today. I was blessed to be the head coach for the last 10 years that Dana was open, from 2000 to 2010, and it was my first head coaching job. I was 27 years old, and came here and really learned how to be a head coach here, and so good to see some former players here today. We were just in Borup over here, kind of reminiscing about some things, and that's I talked to Carol Hauserman a little bit earlier today, and she said that's the payoff, from coaching, and that absolutely is the case. And when we moved here from Michigan, my family really grew up here. My wife Carrie and I had all three of our girls went to school here, and my oldest daughter Alex graduated from Blair, and now lives in Sioux Falls. And just by the way, she's due with our first grandchild in February, so we're pretty excited about that. For some of these players, I know it makes them feel a little bit older, because when they last saw my girls, they were really young. So, but I know that this is such a special place to all of us. And I didn't go to school here, but I did work here for 10 years, and this is a really special place for me. In June, I received a text message from Jason and Mark, and asking me to introduce them today, and I was just blown away and really honored, and that they would ask me to do that. And so I got the privilege here to kind of talk about two of the best basketball players to ever play here. Mark Esser is originally from Woodbine, Iowa, and I probably have not ever recruited anybody as hard as I recruited Mark. My assistant that year during Mark's senior year, Aaron Winkle, and I, we wore out the road from here to Woodbine to see him play, to go to the home visit, to whatever. We were headed over there pretty much every week. We knew that if we could get Mark to come, we thought he could be a really good basketball player. And what we learned in the process of recruiting him is that he's a really special person. We got to know not only him, but his family as well, and got a chance to know David and Julie and his parents. And actually, I'm really disappointed that that they're not here today, unfortunately. But I do want to. I want to make sure that I reach out to Dave. Dave's a great dude. I just love talking to Dave. Anyway, Mark was not only a really good player, but I think something that's probably important to all of us to know is that he was an excellent student as well. He was an academic All-American here. And with that education, and you see it in your, the pamphlet here about what he does now. And I asked Mark the other day, I said, now you gotta tell me what you do. And he's like, he tells me, I'm work for Wilbur Ellis, and I do financial analysis, budgeting, capital planning, and I work in South Dakota, North Dakota, Montana, Wisconsin, and Minnesota. I know what some of that means. I don't know what all of it means, but it sounds a little bit more complicated than teacher coach, which is what what we do. It sounds a little bit more complicated than that. So, but I know he's been really successful doing that with the education that he got here. Mark really worked to be a great basketball player, and that certainly happens, but he was a special athlete. So we're recruiting, college coaches recruit, we want to see things. Mark's tall, he's 6'8", he can run, and he can jump, and he can dunk, and he can do all this stuff. And so, but when he got here, he really had to learn how to play college basketball. He had to learn how to play hard. He had to learn how to play through some things. And at Woodbine, a tiny little Woodbine, they just kind of wait till he got down there. So if he wanted to walk down the floor, they'd just wait. And then they throw it to him and he'd score. Well, here, that was a little bit different, okay? And so he had to really work hard. He lifted hard. And at some point, somewhere between, his sophomore year or something, he really decided, I want to be a great player. And he worked at it. He would go home in the summer. He lifted. He ran. He drove over here 2 or 3 times a week, and we would go through an hour-long workout, and we did that all summer long. And that work obviously paid off for him as he became an all-conference player, became one of the best players in the league, one of the best players to ever play here. If you know Mark, a lot of people think he's a really easygoing guy, and he is. He's funny. He's great to be around. But you get him on the floor, okay, and he is a fierce competitor. And there was a night that we were playing at Nebraska Wesleyan, and they always gave us trouble. Well, they gave pretty much everybody trouble, but certainly when we played over there. And this particular night, we were playing well. We had the lead. We led all night long, but they were coming back at the end of the game. And their student section was kind of right underneath our basket in the second half, and they were just giving it to us. I mean, they were yelling at our guys on the bench, at our players, at me. They just were getting after us. And we were kind of getting sick of it a little bit. And ball goes out of bounds, and Mark walks over, kind of unbeknownst to me at the time. Mark walks over to Doug Houston, who was a freshman, who's taking the ball out of bounds. And Mark goes, run down and throw it. Now, I cleaned that up a little bit. I think that the interaction wasn't quite like that, but this is a family show. So I kind of stand up to walk down. I'm going to call the play. I'm the coach, and I'm going to call the play. Well, Doug is a freshman, and Mark comes and tells him what to do. Doug's going to do it. So Doug calls down, and this is a little out of bounds thing we do, and we set a screen, and Mark comes off there, and if it's open, we're going to throw a lob pass, and Mark's going to lay it in. And well, it works out that way. We run it, and Doug throws it. He throws it way above the rim. I mean, way above the rim. Mark goes up. He gets it. You guys remember this? Okay. He throws down the most emphatic dunk that maybe I've ever seen. And the ball hits the floor, bounces into the student section. They shut up immediately. Our guys on the bench go crazy. And we blew them out in the last 5 minutes of the game. It was a really cool thing, but Mark had just kind of gotten sick of them. And he was like, this is what's going to happen, and gave us a lot of momentum, and we ended up winning over there, which just didn't happen very often. There was also one night over here that these guys played in some of the most incredible basketball games that you can imagine, but Mark had a triple-double here against William Penn, which is double figures in 3 different categories. And so we beat William Penn here 123 to 117. And Mark that day had 31 points, 18 rebounds, and 12 blocked shots. Now that's in your pamphlet there as well, which I think is still a conference record of 12 blocked shots in a game. So there's times where triple doubles are points, rebounds, and assists, but rarely blocked shots. But the interesting, and that was just an amazing performance, but the interesting thing was he almost had a quadruple double. That's the thing that people don't quite realize, okay? The 4th category was turnovers, but we don't talk too much about that. We concentrate on the other stuff, not the 9 turnovers that night. So I'm sorry, I shouldn't have done that. That would have been interesting. I never coached a kid with a quadruple double, but anyway. But what that showed me, obviously, was he was a great player. But he played, I don't know how many minutes he played that night. more than 40, which is a testament to the work that he put in, and and just what he had done to become a great basketball player. Now, I'm going to kind of circle back there in a second, but talk a little bit about Jason here. Jason is from Council Bluffs. One of the things Jason wanted me to make sure that I mentioned is that he was raised by his mom, Cindy, who is here today, just a wonderful lady. And Jason transferred here from Briarcliff. And to be honest, when he was going to transfer, I didn't know much about Jason. He had actually sent out some messages, some colleges, and so to tell you how great a recruiter I was, I really didn't know if I wanted him or not. I'm like, I don't know. I'm not sure we need him. I was hesitant to have him. We didn't do much with transfers at that time. Tells you how much different the game is these days. But when we were doing that, this place was being built and Borup was being renovated. And I don't know if anybody here remembers this, but maybe Shad does. But coaches, I had an office in a dorm room in Rasmussen Hall, 3rd floor. That was my office for about eight months, I think, something like that. And that's where I remember that distinctly, because I remember looking at Jason's stuff and deciding, do we want to offer him a scholarship or he come here or whatever. Well, fortunately I did. And we obviously agreed. And the first year he had to redshirt. He couldn't play if he transferred in the conference. So every day of practice was a game for Jason. And he was determined that when he came back and was able to play, that he was going to be a great player. He wanted to be the best player in the league and the best player that he could be. And so he went after it every day. And I'll never forget how he approached that season. He could have just kind of cruised through it, but every day he was ready to go for when it was his opportunity. And, he was certainly frustrated not to be able to play. It was also frustrating for the coach to know that our best player couldn't play. He could only practice that year. And we had a really good season that year. Chad, I think that was your senior year that year. And we were 500 for the first time in a long time here. And things were really looking good. And Jason was a part of that. He was the other team's best player when we did our scout. And was a big part of that. Then when he was able to play, the last 2 years, we used him as the point guard, we used him as the off guard, wherever we could put him on the floor. And in 2 seasons, he scored 1,372 points. He was all conference, he was an All-American. He was 2nd in the country in scoring his senior year. And those things are all really neat, okay? But they don't tell even part of the story of what he did for this program in Indiana College. One of the things that I've always admired about Jason was he never backed down from the big moment. Most players really don't want the ball when it matters the most. They say that they do, but most of them don't. They don't want to have the moment. They don't want to have it on their shoulders. Jason is the exception when he wanted the ball in the big moments. Now that I think about it, he actually wanted the ball at all the moments. But he did want it in the big moments. He wasn't afraid of that. And, one of the most amazing performances that I have ever seen, and probably the greatest game that I've ever been a part of, and I still get emotional. I don't know why, it's 15 years later, 16. I still get emotional thinking about this game. The game was 135 to 133. And went 4 overtimes. And we were at Morning. We lost that game at Morningside. You know what? I should have taught us to play some defense. We scored a lot of points. Anyway, sorry, that just came to me. But this was in this particular game. And again, we lose the game. It's probably the greatest game I've ever been a part of. And to go at the time, it was an NAIA record for overtimes, and they've since, I don't know, somebody's played more, I think 6 or whatever. But Jason had 48 points that night. He scored 24 points in the overtimes. I don't know that I'm not sure we had anybody else score in the overtimes, but he hit a couple baskets right at the end to send it to another overtime. I mean, it was just amazing, and he made every big basket for us. And, you know, they just made one at the buzzer, you know, in 4 overtimes. And, you know, it showed to me who he was as a competitor, as an individual, as a leader. You know, what he did that night, playing Morningside, a team that was better than we were. You know, they went to the national tournament, they did all this, but at their building, for us to compete with them is something I'll never forget. As his teammates know too, Jason absolutely loves basketball. Now, you say, well, he's a basketball player, all players do. Well, no, that's not true. They don't always all love it. But he does. He dragged guys into the gym. He wanted to get better, but he wanted his teammates to get better too. Not only, you know, what he's done, he created a really huge summer league in Omaha. He founded it. He coaches AAU basketball in the summer. He has a tremendous workout program for his high school players. And as the head coach at Abraham Lincoln High School, I know that his players are in the gym. Jason puts out videos on workouts. His guys are working because of the passion that he has for basketball. And he's been incredibly successful there. He has developed talent. He currently has the #1 ranked player in the state of Iowa, who will be coming back for his senior year on his team, and in large part due to what he has done to help develop that young man as well. And his guys really become good basketball players. That's great. But there's no question that his biggest contribution is getting them off to a great start and being men of significance. I don't think there's any doubt about that. And that's something that I'm really proud of him for doing in terms of being a leader. You know, I talked about these guys individually, but the real story and the fun part for me is how connected that they are. They're great friends. They became great friends here. They pushed each other to be great basketball players, and they pushed me to be a better coach. They wore the Dana jersey with pride. And they helped to bring relevancy to Dana College basketball. We were part of the GPAC, and was just as the GPAC was becoming great, the best NAI league in America. We were the smallest one. We were the smallest one, but we were competitive. We were good. We were able to win, and in large part because of Mark Esser and Jason Isaacson. Sorry. These guys, you know, I talked to a couple of their teammates to kind of see what they thought of them, and I heard great leaders was one thing that I heard. And just this morning, I was staying at Nate T's house, other than my wife, my best friend, who's been with me a long time coaching and just moved back to Omaha. And he said the one thing that came through for him was that they were friends. And Nate was a little bit younger, and he's like, you know, on our team, we didn't have any silos. We didn't have any group here, group here, group here. You know, we had a group that was all together, and it was because of what those guys did. And I think when your teammates and you have the respect of them, and they say great things about you years later, okay, I think that really shows the legacy that you leave. And so I kind of want to leave you with that. I love you guys. You've been so much, you meant so much to me, and it's so fun when we can talk and get together. And I know that you are both very deserving of this honor. So, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for your time. I appreciate it, and for allowing me to talk about two players and people who mean the world to me, Mark Esser and Jason Isaacson.
As you know, the Vikings of ancient days wore amulets that were called Thor's hammer. if you wore the Thor's hammer, you could not be defeated in battle. So this is for you guys.
Come on, man, I was supposed to present that to you. Oh, I know. Are you that excited? Yeah. Oh, we've got to make sure we got that right second too. By the way, that's an ice sheet.
Oh, thank you.
All right, I will go first. I'll be hopefully pretty quick. When I talk every year with my team, I bawl like a baby. Coach Nixon, my good friend, assistant coach, he can attest to that. I do want to apologize to all the speakers. My 18 kids right up here, they're doing good. They're fighting really good. But I got 4 kids that are all here, so I just want to say, here's Oakley. If you could raise your hand to Oak. Good. Bea, Paisley, and Oliver right here. And my wife, Amy, who obviously I want to thank, she also went to Dana here, so I met her. We met my first year, but we started dating my second year of college here, and then we've been married for a long time. 13 years, and we got these 4 babies. So I want to thank my mom just for holding me together. I was a knucklehead, but she really held me on track and got me to college, got me here. So none of this would be possible without you. You can't talk about your mom. And then I just want to thank Coach Fear for coming in, talking, and for taking a chance on me, bringing me in. Kind of, how I ended up at Dana, which is really cool that Mark and I are going in together. It is Mark and I played AAU basketball together. So that's where that connection happened. And when I was transferring, I wasn't sure what I was going to do, if I was going to go to school or keep playing ball or just do whatever. I didn't know. But I hit up Mark about Dana, and he said, yeah, come down and play with us one day. And then it kind of went from there. And I was bugging Coach Fear, like, hey, let me come play. I know Mark, hoping that would get me in the door. And it did, and then it just took off from there. Once I came here, James talked about it. Once I came here, and then I started visiting and doing things and meeting people, you just feel like it's the right place to go. It was the perfect place for me. Just even running into, like Professor Hauserman, even Coach Beam, just think about all the people that were always just so kind and caring here at Dana. And it was just what I needed at that time, and it was great for me. So thank you guys that were all so kind and here when I was here. Coach Fear, just have to thank you so much. Like I said, I was a knucklehead, and I still kind of was when I came here. And he didn't quit on me. He didn't, he didn't just run me out the door or anything like that. He really cared about me. Took me in. It was kind of I hate doing this. I hate talking. It's kind of the first male figure to do that for me. And so it was really important. And so I'm so grateful for him for doing that. And it's really helped me mold my teaching and coaching style now when I work with young men, and especially young men, who are knuckleheads. I really try to take those guys in and work with them and not give up like everybody else kind of does on them. So yeah, thanks, Coach. Mark, thanks to you. Mark and I are best friends to this day. And like James was saying, the thing about Dana is, I met my wife, I met my mentor, Mark, my best friend. We got Matt and Jared and Chad and Nick, and obviously we got big group of buddies that still hang out to this day, 15 years later, and that's just really special. So thanks to everybody that's involved with this. Bob, thank you for all that you do. Just really grateful and honored to accept this, so thank you.
Thank you, Jason. And I too, you guys got a chair I can use? No, Coach, I wanted to thank you, first of all, recruiting me. You didn't mention anything about Dave. There's some really funny stories that maybe not be appropriate here, but we'll on my recruiting visit. So, yeah, I want to thank you for coming and introducing us, recruiting me. The sole reason I came to Dana was yourself and another person I really want to thank, Chad Harder, who's here. Chad is from Walnut, which is really close to Woodbine. So I actually went to basketball camps with Chad, the one that he runs today, when we were in junior high, high school. And Chad and his now wife, Jen, who went to Dana, came to a game at Woodbine to recruit with Coach Fear. And that meant the world to me that a player, not just a coach, would come recruit somebody to come play basketball. And then we came on a Dana visit, and Chad had another friend who talked at Dana, said it was the greatest place ever, really got my parents bought in, and it turns out that guy didn't go to Dana, but he was Chad's friend. So that was another good reason. So Chad, you remember that story, I'm sure. But another really funny story. Bob, thank everybody here that's a part of the Alumni Association. It's handing out this award. It's great to be able to come back to Dana. Somewhat emotional walking through the halls and seeing the old locker rooms, the gyms. I wish there was games and stuff we could still come back to, but like they said, there's our core group of guys and the relationships we have that I met. Talking about Jason and me and him, we're both our best men at the weddings for each other. And if you were to look at my wedding party, all except my brother-in-law, it was Dana basketball players, and then Matt Van Horn, who's another great friend of mine, sitting here, was the Dana guy. So I think that's exactly the relationships Jason talked about. You have the text messages, the group texts, the getting together, and you could not see each other for 10 years and then get together and just pick up where you left off. So it was a really special place for me. My parents, I did want to thank them. They had scheduled a vacation about 4 months ago that they were really bummed they couldn't be here, but my dad especially, he was the maintenance guy at Woodbine at the school, so I had 24/7 access to a gym. And it was just really, really awesome experience. I was really thankful to have that. So I really just want to thank everybody, my wife Jen, who's here. We have a 4-year-old son Owen and another boy on the way in February. So I always tell Coach you could have a couple scholarships ready if he was still coaching for them. But again, I appreciate the award. James, I want to congratulate you too on your award speech. It was very moving and really, really awesome. So thank you everybody, and enjoy the rest of the homecoming.